how I wished to live in the era of the pharaohs, so that I could be a crowned queen and ascend the throne of Egypt like the queens of the ancient world. I often had dreams about this for several years. I often dreamed about our ancestors, the pharaohs, and a great fear overcame me that made me give up that wish. With the abundance of dreams, I decided to get rid of those fears that made me lose my passion for our great civilization. At that time, I was curious to know a lot about the secrets of the greatest civilization in the world, and I did not know where to start. After a great deal of confusion that took several years, the queens decided first, and in no particular order, Hatshepsut, who is one of the most famous queens whose name has been immortalized in the minds of many throughout the ages and to this day, is Queen Hatshepsut, an ancient Egyptian pharaonic queen known as Ganem Amun Hatshepsut, which means Amun's concubine, the pearl of princesses, or Amun's favorite concubine among the ladies. Queen Hatshepsut was born in 1508 BC. She was the eldest daughter of Queen Ahmose and King Thutmose I. She was ranked 5th in the order of kings of the 18th dynasty. Queen Hatshepsut learned to read and write, in addition to studying the sciences of behavior and correct ethics, in addition to philosophy, arithmetic, the rules of composition, language, and correct religious rituals. She also worked hard to learn the proverbs of the ancient Egyptian sages. She shared power with her father as his legitimate heir. After her father's death, she was 20 years old and had to bear responsibility, so she married her half-brother Thutmose II, who was from a non-primary wife, in order to maintain the ruling dynasty. She performed the traditional role of queen and principal wife. Hatshepsut had a son and 2 daughters from him, as fate would have it. The son died as a child, and the 2 daughters remained, Neferua and Merit-Re Hatshepsut. Her husband had a child, Thutmose III, from a woman named Ira, who was one of the concubines of the royal court. After his death, Queen Hatshepsut was able to rule Egypt for more than 20 years and successfully played the role of Pharaoh of Egypt. She was the guardian of her husband's son, Thutmose III. Hatshepsut built temples and monuments, which led to the prosperity of Egypt at that time. Queen Hatshepsut devoted all her strength and Egypt's resources during that period to the construction of roads, temples, and houses. She sponsored craftsmen and improved the country's internal conditions and kept Egypt away from wars. Her greatest work was a mausoleum built for her husband in the Valley of the Kings. Among her most famous temples is the funerary temple called Jesru in Deir el-Bahari, which was designed for her by the engineer Senmut. She granted him 80 titles, and he was responsible for the care of her daughter. Historians have indicated, while tracing her history and way of life, that there was a relationship between Hatshepsut and her engineer and personal servant, Senmut. This was proven by Senmut extending a passageway that connects her grave to his. Queen Hatshepsut appeared with a false beard as she began to wear clothes similar to the clothes of the male pharaohs who preceded her in official celebrations. She also appeared in some of her statues with a false chin, as is common in the statues of the pharaohs, although this did not diminish the fact that Hatshepsut possessed all the characteristics of a beautiful woman, as she had a nice wine-colored skin, a slightly hooked nose, and a round face. Queen Hatshepsut was considered one of the most beautiful women, as she was the first to wear gloves and embroider them with precious stones due to a congenital defect in her fingers. and this was revealed after seeing her mummy, unlike most of her statues that were made for her. And her hands appeared natural because she ordered the sculptors to do so. Queen Hatshepsut suffered from diabetes and cancer, which was the cause of her death. Hatshepsut died on the 10th of the second month of autumn, which corresponds to January 14th, 1457 BC, during the year after 22 years of her reign, as stated in an inscription on a tablet found in Armant. Hatshepsut was one of the few queens who convinced the ancient world throughout the ages that women could rule like men, but even better and much greater than some male kings did. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and like the channel.